Okay, this is going to be a bit of a sad vlog, and I'm going to share some information with you about a friend, and also I'm also going to share, which I've never done on YouTube before, something that happened to me or something that I went through a few years ago, which ended up being one of the reasons why I decided to become a campsite warden. So I lost a friend yesterday, Tina, who was younger than me, and people who have been watching this channel for a while will remember when I went home at winter, I interviewed some people that I know back at home who had businesses, and there was an organisation called GeForce, a Christian organisation that I interviewed with Paul, Tina and Hazel. Some of you will remember and some of you won't remember. And at the end of the interview, I gave Tina a great big hug, and I can't remember the words. It was something like, I'll share going forward with what I know. And Tina said, please do tell everybody, Neil. So when I shot that video, I knew Tina was terminally ill and I would never see her again. So we spent quite a long time off camera talking about things, and I am going to put the GeForce interview clip in a minute after I've had a waffle. And when you see Tina on this video, she looks really well. She looks great, and she's smiling and enthusiastic about the charitable work that they have been doing with their organisation GeForce, the God Force. And I say they were devoted Christians and helping out people. And Tina's attitude to me, because obviously you don't know what to say when somebody's terminally ill, and if anybody can put their foot in it, it'll be me. But Tina just turned around to me and said, she just held my hand and said, Neil, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. He said, because God's got another place for me to go to. It's not, you know, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to go and do another job, which might sound, if you're an atheist, a little bit bonkers, but that's up to you. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to reinsert that interview so you can see Tina, and you'll see the hug that I did at the end, and the words that Tina, so I said, and then Tina gave the nod, the approval, will now make sense. So when I videoed this, I knew I'd never see Tina again. So I'm going to insert that, and I'm just going to collect my thoughts now. And sorry, as I'm recording this, it's Saturday, and I don't normally cut grass on Saturdays, you know. I'm going to go and preoccupy my mind for an hour on a mower, and then I'll come back and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened to me and how my story could have been the same as Tina's. I'll share this in a minute, but have a watch of this. Next. So guys, I was just saying, when I was talking about my spare wheel, which please I'm going to have a clue about that, I wanted to go and see some good friends of mine. So I'm joined by Paul, Hazel and Tina from an organisation based in Timpley, Altrincham area, called GeForce. And the work that they've done over the decades, it's a long time, isn't it?
25 years.
25.
Yeah.
It's absolutely remarkable for community projects. So I'm going to come off camera and I'm going to get these guys to introduce themselves and tell us what you do. So should we, Tina, let's start off with you. Tell people who you are.
I'm Tina Huxley and I'm the project manager for GeForce. Now, before COVID, I used to organise the projects. As COVID and we're coming out of COVID and we're moving forward, everything is around food. So we now have 2 community shops as well as a community cafe, and we're serving the food and we're helping families, we're helping children with packed lunches, we give free meals in the cafe. It's all around food.
And Hazel.
Hi, I'm Hazel Beresford. Before COVID, I used to teach art in the schools and in the doctor's surgery, art on prescription sort of thing. When COVID hit, it was food, and I started with old people and now feed the homeless. We have about 75 main meals and puddings and desserts, and that's what I do now.
And Paul, explain about yourself.
Well, yeah. Well, GeForce has been established about 25 years. Tina and I lived in an area called Broomwood, and what we did was just decided that there was quite a few issues that needed addressing, and that we were going to do something about it because we cared about where we lived. And 25 years later, here we are, registered charity. We have a community cafe, and as Tina said, we started 2 community groceries. So lots of people in the area where we live have really been affected by poverty and deprivation and stuff like that. So what we try to do is we try to help in any way we can. So we have a community shop, or 2 community shops that open twice a week, and we sell food, probably around about 15 to 20% of its actual cost. And then people can sign up, become a member, come and do the shop, get what they want, and any money they save they can spend in any other area of their life. You know, it might be gas, it might be electricity, it might be putting shoes on the kids' feet, or school equipment, or whatever. It's about just helping people as much as we can. We just care about where we live, we care about the people who live around us, our neighbours, and we want to make a difference. So we've been doing that for 25 years. Incredibly privileged to be able to do what we do. Hazel talked about making meals, 75 meals, home cooked meals every week go into Manchester that we make. We're not funded by that, but we're Christians, and God provides us all that food. So we cook it and we send it out with a group called Don't Walk Past to deliver it to all the homeless. And we're just here to help people where they're at. We're not to give them a handout, but to give people a hand up. And those that are struggling, to try and make them as independent again as they possibly can be. We help young people find jobs, we help families in crisis. We do lots of environmental work, and we work with local authorities and local partners, because we believe working together makes a difference. You can't work on your own, you've got to work with all those other people and all those other people in your community to make a difference, to make our community stronger, better. We just play our part. And over the years, Neil's been a massive help. He was a counsellor for us for a long time. He was a real dedicated supporter of what we did, so it's really great to see him doing so well and really enjoying life and out in the countryside and stuff like that. I think one day we might book a week at his campsite and and enjoy a bit of a break ourselves. So thanks for listening. GeForce, charity number 111077. Check us out, have a look at our annual report if you're interested, and if you want to get involved with us at any stage, just give us a call or send us an email, and we'll see what we can do together. God bless you.
Absolutely amazing, Paul. Hey, I'm sure Tina's gone. Oh, you're there. Come on in, guys. So she's behind me.
Got the gingerbread men.
So where you live, and I'm being absolutely serious. I've not really gone into these on my vlogs, but I've been a volunteer of some form or another since being 11 or 12. I've always been involved in things. Why don't you go and explore the area you live in and find out if there's a community group like these guys that you can go and donate a little bit of time to, because every organisation is struggling, every charity, every voluntary group is struggling for volunteers, because one day you may need it. Guys, you are all amazing. Tina has come here, Tina. I need to give Tina a big hug on video. Has got some other issues which I won't go into here now and everything. I might talk about it in a future vlog, because we've had a similar thing, a similar journey, which I might explain, because some of you don't know exactly what happened. But Tina is also an inspiration when you're poorly. You're not. You are. I'll explain on a future vlog. Yeah, I'll explain on a future vlog. Brilliant, guys, and it's been wonderful to see you. And all being well, I'm going to be back in November. We'll do it all over again.
Yeah. See you again, Neil. Look after yourself.
Have a cute dog alert. Come on. Cute dog alert. Found some crumbs. I will walk through the cafe, not really get anybody in, so you can see the community cafe and film outside. Guys, brilliant. So so again, I won't get people in, but fantastic community space, community cafe, fantastic staff, amazing, doing their bit. And I'll just give you a quick look here outside. So there you are. That's another little organisation and some people that do an incredible about a very difficult work in their community. So there was Tina in that clip, who sadly passed away yesterday, and as you saw, happy smiley face and a beautiful lady, and I would class as being a good friend. If ever I had any issues at all, anything at all, I know that I could always ask Tina and Paul, her husband, for assistance. And it's very, very sad. And yeah, what I thought I'd talk about here, which I've not spoken about online, I have done a number of voluntary things over many, many years. I've had a very full life, and very, very few people out there know anything at all about me. You've seen the campsite warden, and that's all you've seen, but I've had a very full life. And part of the voluntary things that I've done in the past, and this is going to sound a little bit weird, this is going to sound very, very weird, is I've been a human guinea pig on a number of experiments. So I've donated my DNA. It's in a big laboratory in Germany. Sandra didn't like me donating my DNA over a number of medical trials where my body has been used for things. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I'm a former smoker. So those of a certain age, when smoking was, well, virtually everybody smoked. I started smoking quite young as a teenager. And when I met Sandra, because Sandra was a non-smoker, she's asthmatic, I promised to give up smoking. We met in 2006, and it was sort of several months sort of down the road. I did give up smoking, and I've never had a cigarette since. But one of the medical research things that I offered to participate in, I think this was over a 3-year period, was there was a new inhaler for asthmatic people with COPD, that's the word. And I do not have asthma or any lung problems or breathing problems, but they wanted somebody who was a former smoker that potentially could have caused some damage to the lungs to take part in this trial. So everything was going great. Every couple of months you'd go in and you were given these inhalers and lots of breathing things. And then ultimately you were then taken into in for a scan, a chest scan, to see. So you had a scan done at the beginning of the day to look how small your lungs were, and at the end of the day, when you're doing all these exercises, you've been given these to see how big your lungs were. This went on for a while, and then a couple of years into the trial, I'd had a CT scan, and I was gone home. And it was, it's a bit of a blur, this, to be honest. It couldn't have been the same day, but it was in a short space of time. I was sat on the settee at home in the afternoon, and the phone went, and I answered it, and it was a doctor, basically to turn around and said the scan had shown up some lung problems. Sorry, it's a bit hard talking about this, and some lung problems. And I'm going, oh yeah, how serious? And they said, well, it potentially could be very serious. And I was put on a 2-week fast track. And it was like, when I was given this information over the phone, it was as if I'd been in a daydream. You know when you nap and you sort of wake up suddenly, and you've had that sort of dream in your subconsciousness when you can hear things going on around you. And I put the phone down. I think I fell asleep, and then I woke up and I'm thinking, have I actually just taken that phone call, or did I dream it? Because it was all surreal. It's like, am I going to die? Am I going to die in 2 weeks? Am I going to die in a year? Well, we're all going to die. And I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what to say, and I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know whether to say anything to Sandra. So I did tell Sandra what had happened, and then I think it was the next day I was rushed to see a doctor. And he was coming up with big words I'd never even heard about, all to do with my pulmonary nodules in my lungs and blah, 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 blah. And at this stage, we didn't know how serious it was. I had another friend at the same time called Gene Taylor, no relation, but another friend had exactly the same issue going on. And it turned out the problem is if you ever get lung cancer, you don't have any symptoms. You don't know you're poorly. Shoulders, apparently, if you're rubbing your shoulders and all the time and you get shoulder ache here, is a sign of potential lung cancer. I knew none of this. And I'm now petrified that I got lung cancer. And ended up having some more CT scans. And then these nodules, they were identified and this shadowing. And they said, well, what we're going to have to do is, because from the CT scan you had a fortnight ago to the CT scan now, the shadow and the nodules have moved. And I'm just flummoxed. To cut a very, 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 very long story short, 2 years later I was given the all clear. Everything was okay. Everything settled down, and it just turned out that this suspicious activity with these pulmonary nodules that many people get, and I was all right. And very shortly after I was given the all clear, my friend Gene was diagnosed with cancer. Gene Taylor, and Gene died. But again, just a beautiful lady, a lovely lady. And then Tina, when I saw her last year, I knew she'd been diagnosed with cancer. And then we sat around the table, and I said, "You're never going to believe this, Tina, but I got diagnosed with potentially cancer." And I told her my story, and she said, "Mine was exactly the same, Neil, these nodules and shadows in the lungs." She's never smoked. She wasn't a drinker. She had a great, fantastic lifestyle, healthy eating, healthy living. And as you saw, Tina passed away. But once I was given the all clear, I said to Sandra, life is so short. I've just been blessed that I've come out of this the other side. And I'd always wanted to be a campsite warden. I'd always wanted my own campsite when I was very, very, very young. And so that was the catalyst to where my hunt to become a campsite warden derived from, was being given some pretty awful news at the time that turned out to be okay. And obviously Sandra was very understanding that I needed to get this out of my system, this going away and living on a campsite for several months. And as I say, 2020. I'm into my fourth year of doing this now. So I've not really shared that story publicly. But anybody out there, if you are a smoker, please stop. Seriously, you're never too old to stop. You've got no idea the carnage and the damage it's doing in here. Even spray cleaners, bleaches and things like that, when you're cleaning the bath, you're breathing in. Just be mindful of what you're breathing in. I spent most of my career working in photographic laboratories, breathing in fixers and developers and bleaches, my head literally over chemical tanks, not having any understanding of the damage it potentially was going to do to my lungs. As I say, fortunately, everything has been okay, and I was taken off the system, and everything was good, and I have had a wonderful life. I am not scared of dying neither. This is going to sound really morbid. All my funeral arrangements are all in place. I'm not having a funeral. There's going to be no funeral when I die. Waste of money, absolute waste of money, not happening. And very much not afraid of dying, because what a fantastic life I've had. But look after yourselves out there. And I know I have spoken to a couple of people that stayed with us at the nurseries about this cancer scare that I've had. I know other people have had a very similar story where they've sort of popped out the other end. And I wish you all well out there. Look after yourselves, and I dedicate this little vlog in memory of Tina Huxley.